Hello there! So today I finally saw the GIVER movie and I have a lot to discuss about it. I first read the book, I'm pretty sure it was 7th grade. There's a small chance it might have been 8th grade. But the other day I was at Barnes & Noble, as usual, and I saw this copy of The Giver. It was the movie tie-in edition, and I thought it looked really nice. This is one of the better movie tie-in editions. We have The Giver and Jonas, and they're in black and white at the top, and then color. I thought it was nice, and so I decided to buy it. This is one of the few books that I actually read all the way through for school. Usually in school I'll read like a chapter, convince myself that I'm gonna read the book this time, then I'm on Spark Notes, because usually books for class are not that interesting, but back in 7th grade, this one was pretty good. But the cover that I read it on was like the old man cover, but I decided to get this copy, and then I was like, the movie's coming out in a few days, and I don't remember everything that I probably should, so I reread it in like 2 nights. It's a really short book. Then I was worried. I knew that this was not nearly enough to put in a movie that people would want to see. I was worried that I was going to be picking out little things like in the dialogue and the order of things that were different from the book. I was also just worried in general that it would be so different that the book was just barely recognizable in the movie. I posted a picture on Instagram that I was reading The Giver again, and I just immediately got like so many comments from people bashing the movie. It's like, first of all, how did you see it already? Because it's Thursday. And I didn't want to read all of those comments because I didn't want my mind to already be against the movie when I went into it. But it kind of was. I had low expectations, but then I heard some people say good things about it. The next day, I was happy with the movie. It's not my favorite book-to-movie adaptation, but I liked it. I appreciated their efforts. I understood why they did some things. There were a few things that were frustrating that I would have changed if I were involved. But you know, it wasn't a train wreck. So I'm going to go into more detail now. If you don't want to be spoiled, I highly recommend reading this book and seeing the movie. It's a fantastic book. In the book, there's not a lot of action. There's just not. And it's less than 200 pages. It would be so difficult to get an exciting movie out of what the book has. Lois Lowry wrote a little introduction at the front of this copy of the book. It's been 20 years since she wrote The Giver, and she even recognizes and points out that Jonas riding around on his bicycle thinking about things that are super important to the reader will not translate to film. It just won't. She even says like Katniss Everdeen is always shooting people and there's so much action in dystopian books and movies like that that it's easier to translate. This was not. So I'm gonna go into more detail on the movie now. If you don't want to be spoiled, which I recommend you don't, I'll see you soon. Go pick up this book. I read it so quickly, so you will read it quickly. Literally, just go read it. Just go get it. Just go read it. Okay. So now I'm going to discuss the movie. The thing that I realized was so many of the characters in The Giver just aren't there a lot. For example, Asher and Fiona and Chief Elder, they gave them a lot more screen time than Lois Lowry gave them book time. A lot of the book is just Jonas, or just Jonas and The Giver, or him and his family. So there were a lot of things added in that gave them more character. Chief Elder became more of a villain than she was in the book. Maybe they wanted to give Meryl Streep more screen time so they can put her name on it really big. Maybe that's just how they thought it should be. But I thought it worked out pretty well. The scenes with Jonas and Fiona, I've heard people complaining about them having a romantic relationship sort of in this movie. The feelings are there in the book. He has a crush on Fiona. We don't delve into it. The way that's translated in the movie is him pursuing it, and her sort of starting to realize this as well. The scene with them sledding down that hill, or whatever that was, that's how they are translating his change of mind and his sort of breaking the rules. And the scene with Asher chasing Jonas after he runs off added more to Asher's character, gave opportunity for a really powerful scene with Fiona almost being released, and the scene between Chief Elder and The Giver. I thought that dialogue that they had was really important for the movie to have. It just sort of fills in the holes for the movie for people who don't know what's going on. And I think stuff like that is fine. I enjoyed it. I wasn't really expecting an exact adaptation with The Giver. They certainly changed a few things. There seemed to be higher technology, but it wasn't insane. With Chief Elder being able to sort of transmit herself into rooms. I thought it was interesting the way that they did that. At the end, it sort of turned into more of an action-packed dystopia, but it still just made you think a lot more like the book did. The book doesn't give you that action, the book gives you Jonas's thoughts. And I feel like that's why Meryl Streep's character had sort of a villainous way about her. She kind of represented the whole evil of the society that Jonas was starting to see. She sort of had a Kate Winslet as Janine sort of feel about her, which I loved seeing Meryl Streep do. I think the acting in this movie was pretty good, especially with some of the awkward things that they had to do. I apologize, I accept your apology. One of the weirdest things to me about this movie was that they were clapping when people were being chosen at the ceremony of 12, which was a graduation for them. Not a big deal, but kind of beating around the bush of explaining the whole ceremony of 1s, 2s, and 3s. Like, I noticed that Lily was actually getting her bike in the movie, when in the book she had to wait another year. Also not a big deal. But when they were clapping, they were just like slapping their one leg, and I'm like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. You all look like robots. I know that's the goal, but that was so creepy. What was wrong? What was wrong with the hand clapping? Like, how do you go from this to this? How is this better? I also felt like the explanations were too quick. Like, some of the things that could have been slowed down and explained a little bit were sort of just, bam, this is how it is, but then other things were slowed down that didn't need to be. When Jonas was being selected, that went by way too quickly, in my opinion. In the book, it's this big, suspenseful thing that goes on for a few chapters. In the movie, she was just kind of like, you have not been assigned. You have been selected. You have the 4 qualities. You're starting tomorrow. You're the new receiver. Can we talk about Taylor Swift? Did she have a bunch of scenes that were like cut or something? She was in the movie for like a second. Like, if that's all she filmed, she was probably on set for like a day. Literally, it was a voiceover of her saying something and walking out of her room, and then a freaking holograph of her playing the piano. I don't know why on the cover of this it says exclusive Q&A with Taylor Swift. There were lots of small changes. There were injections instead of pills, focused a lot less on specifics, but then went more into different specifics. I would like to pick the brain of the person who made these decisions. I wasn't disappointed. Some things that I wasn't expecting to see that I was pretty happy with, but I know other people weren't. I think all of the actors did a really great job. The guy who played Jonas, I really liked him as Jonas, and I understood why they made him a little bit older. It just kind of makes sense in movie version. I certainly liked it towards the end more than I did at the beginning. Some of my favorite scenes were the last time the Giver was transmitting memories to Jonas and the way that they did that montage, and also when Fiona was about to be released. The conversation between Chief Elder and the Giver sort of articulated what the whole dystopia was sort of getting across in the book. We got to see what was happening in the community when Jonas was running away. The book is still there. There's just more. I definitely appreciated the movie for what it was. You have to separate the book and the movie. They just can't be the same, especially in cases like this. Even the author said so. The important thing is that a film doesn't obliterate a book. The movie is here now, but the book hasn't gone away. It has simply grown up, grown larger, and begun to glisten in a new way. Let me know what you thought of the movie. I'm really interested to hear from people who really loved it or really hated it. Feel free to leave all of your thoughts and discuss in the comments below. Perhaps you have a completely different view on it. That's cool. Leave it in the comments. I'm interested to hear from you, and I will see you guys very soon. So I think that's it. Goodbye!